Hello, and welcome to our weekly Friday Live Extra, produced in conjunction with Friday Live, which broadcasts over the air and comes to you as a podcast each week. Don't forget to check out even more about Nebraska Arts and Humanities on our website, nebraskapublicmedia.org/Friday Live. I'm Genevieve Randall. This week on our Friday Live Extra, we're talking with Group Sax. You heard that right. Get your head out of the gutter. Made up of members of the Nebraska Jazz Orchestra. They do mix original arrangements of jazz standards with original compositions. Coming up on February 6th, Group Sax will be performing at St. Paul United Methodist Church in Lincoln for their first Friday music series. So here to represent the group is Ed Love and Scott Vickroy. Great to have you with me in the studio.
Always a pleasure.
Nice to be here.
And you guys chose that name. I can't help but get cheeky with it. I'm so sorry.
We use it a lot.
Yeah.
With all kinds of fun.
Yeah, we thought about, Sax Without Guilt or something like that, but this one kind of stuck.
Well, I think Ed, who we've just heard the voice of here, we should just call you our jazz correspondent at this point for Friday Live, because you've been on the show frequently for all kinds of various things jazz. How frequently are you playing gigs in town?
As often as I can. People still contact me and say, hey, you want to play?
Scott, the same question goes for you. How often are you playing?
As long as the phone rings, I'll continue to play. Involved a little bit in Omaha and here in Lincoln, and stay as busy as I like to be, I guess.
And while we're, getting to know the members here of this group, you want to shout out your other group members?
Paul Haar and Mark Benson are the other two. We're a quartet.
Well, Bob Snyder, the coordinator for the first Friday concert series there at St. Paul United Methodist, he said these are informal concerts with a wide variety of musical selections and, I love this, show and tell of different instruments. So what is Group Sax planning on showing and telling?
Well, we have almost the entire family represented. Paul plays soprano and alto saxophones. Mark will have alto, tenor, and he will also have his clarinet. Ed plays tenor, and then I have a baritone and bass that I bring. There are others in the family of saxophones that we don't have, but those are fairly rare.
Yeah, I wrote one arrangement that has me playing my C melody saxophone, but we're not doing that on this show.
Right.
Okay, tell us about the C melody saxophone, because I don't even know. I know alto and soprano and tenor and bari.
It's kind of between the alto and tenor as far as size is concerned. It was one of the most popular instruments in the country in the 1920s and 30s because it's not a transposing instrument, so you could read off of piano music, just play the melody line, or read over the shoulder of the piano player or something. Anyway, and it was popularized by some recording artists like Rudy Wiedeft, and I can't remember any.
Frankie Trumbauer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the saxophone is not that old an instrument when you're looking at a bunch of instruments, right? So 1920s,
the newest of the woodwinds, sure.
Yeah, the newest of the woodwinds. Do you want to give the folks a little bit of history? And I know it's named for Adolph Sax, and some people can throw that one out there. About what year would you say is the year the saxophone was born?
Is it late 18?
Yeah, 1850 something.
Yeah. Than that? Okay.
Yeah, because it is in Prokofiev's Romeo and Juliet. Yep. He includes a saxophone in the orchestra. So when folks show up to hear this, if they're not familiar with saxophone much at all or saxophone quartets, how do you go about finding the music? How do you go about composing for this group and making the balance sound right? How do you get the right sound?
Well, you better like saxophones. If you don't, you're going to be miserable. No, the group originated, we got this group together, I want to say, early 90s. There were a couple groups that I became aware of and listened to that were jazz saxophone quartets. So traditionally, there are classical saxophone quartet. That's a legitimate ensemble of, that has been composed for, but not so much in the jazz world. And so the two groups that caught my ear way back in those years were Bobby Watson's 29th Street Sax Quartet. He's from Kansas City. And then there was an English group around the same time called Itchy Fingers, and that composer's name was Mike Mower. And I discovered that some of their libraries were available for purchase. And so back then, we put together the group and started just having some rehearsals. That was with Dave Sharp and Andrew Vogt, I think, were the original members of that. So anyway, that's how the group kind of got together. And since then, Mark has composed a lot and arranged a lot for us. Ed's arranged a few pieces.
And so has Scott. And, the writing for the group, it's like writing for a choir, soprano, alto, tenor, and bass. The saxophone ensemble was a big deal in vaudeville. I've seen pictures of all-female saxophone ensembles and all-black saxophone ensembles and things like that were a big deal, again, back in vaudeville days, 20s and 30s.
That makes me think of, there's been mandolin ensembles from about that time too, some ragtime groups and whatnot. And you guys are maybe unintentionally kicking off a series of 3 concerts at St. Paul for these noontime concert series that are all one sound. So after Group Sax, I think the next month is Coro de Flauti, which, full disclosure, all 3 of us have been or are in still, right? And then there's like a group of horn players, so we get all the horn sound.
The Husker Horn Choir.
Yeah, the Husker Horn Choir. So that's kind of funny. I don't know how often I've seen a concert series where it's all these monotone, not monotone, but you know what I mean.
Well, kudos to Bob to kind of make that happen.
Really deep dive into the sound there.
Right.
So this is a little open-ended, I guess, but how did each of you come to the saxophone? Was it the instrument that you started on?
For me, yes. I vaguely remember being in 4th grade and the school band director coming around and just looking at everybody and writing down on a piece of paper the instrument he thought you should play. I don't know if he looked at my teeth or my fingers or how tall I was, whatever. And there were 2 instruments listed, the baritone and the saxophone. Nobody in my family knew what a baritone was, so my dad bought me a saxophone.
It's pretty good. Pretty good. Scott, how about for you?
I started on the clarinet. I wanted to play the saxophone. That was the shiny one that caught my eye. But my folks thought that we could better afford to rent the clarinet, and so that's how I started. And I came to it pretty quickly. I think about eighth grade or 7th grade, I had a band director that was instrumental in giving me some lessons on the saxophone. But it was contingent on my playing the bassoon.
Woof.
He said, you can do this, but you must also try to do this. And then I ended up...
Well, that's paying some dues.
Yeah, it was. But then I got my degrees in bassoon. So.
Did you really?
Yeah, I did.
No, I didn't know that about you.
Yeah.
So if you can do 2 reeds, you can do 1 reed.
Or
if you can play 9 thumb keys on the bassoon, you can play.
Apparently, they all intrigued me at some level. You know.
Yeah. This is funny because honestly, Ed, I've heard you play clarinet more than saxophone, and nowadays more flute than anything. Really, probably just because we're in the flute choir. And I've heard you play more saxophone than clarinet.
Oh yeah.
So somehow you guys have switched roles here.
Well, yeah. Kind of like Scott, and when I was in 8th grade, my band director said, hey, you sound pretty good on the saxophone. Looks like you might wind up doing this for a long time. You really ought to double on the clarinet. So that's when I picked that up, and I wound up majoring in clarinet here at the university because they didn't have a saxophone teacher. The clarinet teacher at the time, Wes Reist, was doing sax and clarinet, and he was mostly a clarinet player. So.
Okay, last question for you. There is something on a saxophone that is called the octave key.
Yeah.
A flute does not have this. In layman's terms, I'm going to really challenge you now. Can you describe what this does and how it does it?
It's like on your flute when you pick up your first finger.
Yeah, but you don't always have to pick up your first finger on the flute. You can do it with
your mouth.
Your
is the octave.
Your mouth is the octave.
And you really don't have to use the octave key on the saxophone either.
Yeah, it's just it's on the above the thumb rest on your left hand.
And it opens a pip on the neck.
Yeah.
They call it a pip.
A pip.
I've never heard that, but okay.
I haven't either, Scott.
I'm
We're
going to use that all the time.
learning new things about instruments. Oh, a little bit of insight. So if you've never known this before about a saxophone, as you're sitting and listening in the audience, look for the octave key.
Oh, yeah. The brass players are envious of that because they really have to work hard to jump up an octave, but all we have to do is flex our thumbs. And the clarinets have a register key. It goes up an octave and a fifth.
Register keys and octave keys. Who knew?
Yeah.
The bassoon has a flick.
A flick?
You flick.
Come on, Scott.
We should not go into the bassoon, should we?
Right. It's too many keys on the bassoon to even deal with.
Yeah.
Well, you can hear these two, along with their bandmates, Paul Harr and Mark Benson. They're performing at St. Paul United Methodist Church in Lincoln on February 6th. It's that noontime concert series, although I love this wording. An elegant light lunch is served at 11:30 and immediately after the concert, if you feel like that's your thing. Costs just a few dollars. Scott and Ed, thank you so much for coming in and talking with me about all things music here today.
Our pleasure.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Super fun. And for more information, of course, find the link through our website at nebraskapublicmedia.org. Just look for the page for Friday Live. You've been listening to the Friday Live Extra. Don't forget to check out a full Friday Live show, too, by subscribing to the Friday Live podcast. Listen online at nebraskapublicmedia.org/Friday Live, or tune in at 10 a.m. Central every Friday for the broadcast on Nebraska Public Media.